So, what is this meeting all about? What are we here to do, and how are we going to do it? Let's begin with a headline message, which is that the international humanitarian system is under increasing strain and the demand for assistance outstrips our capacity to deliver it. But it's not just about lack of resources, it's also because the international system tends to rely on a one-size-fits-all approach, making it inflexible and unable to adapt to different contexts, local needs or capacities. A significant amount of work has already been done, and as a first step we've organised all the ideas and recommendations that have come out of the WHS process around the theme of effectiveness. Now, the big challenge here was how to deal with several hundred recommendations to make them useful and actionable. And this has been done systematically through a process of synthesis and distillation. We have also aligned the synthesized recommendations with the emerging findings from the ALNAP State of the System report and other research. The idea here is to see if there is a fit between the evidence base on what is working and what is not working, and the areas people think need to be changed in order to address the obstacles that inhibit effective assistance. All of this has been written up and presented in the 7 briefing papers you've been sent. If you've had time to read them, you'll know whether there is a good fit or not between the obstacles and the proposed solutions. But don't worry if you've not had time, as Paul would run us through them later. Now, I should emphasise that everything we have in our briefing papers has been filtered using the lens of effectiveness and adaptability. And as a result, not everything that the summit process has thrown up will be reflected in the papers. But other ideas should be taken up in other WHS work and in other initiatives. Now, you can find copies of all the documentation that went into the synthesis on the tables in the reception area. The information is also on your USB sticks, which you'll find in your Global Forum bags. So, let's move on to where we are today. As you know, all of you have been chosen to be in one of 6 different context groups for our discussions. Now, each group will address the same questions in order to get a more complete view about the different changes that are required across 6 types of crisis. And just to remind you, we will be specifically looking at conflict, mega disasters like the Ebola crisis, protracted crisis, recurrent crisis, rapid onset, natural disasters, and urban crisis. Now, the first question we need to answer is, what kind of recommendations from the synthesis will bring about the biggest improvements in each crisis context? Tomorrow, we will reconvene to address the second question, which is about identifying the relative roles of international and national actors in different contexts. And when we've done this, we will be in a position to address question 3, which is how international actors need to change to be more flexible and adaptable. So, if we put together what has already been done and what we're going to do, it looks like this, which, if I may say so, is rather impressive. Now, before we get carried away, let's be realistic for a moment and take a breath. This is an ambitious undertaking, and all of us know that. But let me remind you that much of the work has already been done. And as a group, if we really want to change the system wisely, with good evidence, good communication and trust between all partners, we have to go through a process like this to get the best and most actionable plan. We're the first group of humanitarians to take a structured look at what works best in different contexts. So let's enjoy being pioneers and make as much progress as we possibly can. Now, you all have an important role to play, but you will not all have an opportunity to talk about everything. There's simply too much to get through. But there will be opportunities to review the outputs of conversations you were not involved in. Part of the feedback will take place in the form of polling, which will allow you to register the degree to which you agree or disagree with the outputs from other conversations. And finally, there's a very clear purpose to all of this, which is that our recommendations will be taken up by the WHS in its report to the Secretary-General leading up to the summit itself. And tomorrow, Stephen O'Brien, the new ERC, will join us and provide a fuller explanation. But let me stress here now that nothing we say here in this meeting is binding. Our proposals are at the level of recommendation only. So I hope all of this is clear, and I trust you all feel that it's an exciting and truly important agenda. And so without further ado, I would like to ask Paul to come up to the stage.